Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's class and wishing you a good Erev Shabbos. It's Shabbos Eve, Friday. We're currently in a challenging time, and people are confused, people are in pain, they're suffering, they're hurt, they're distraught. There's not really any words to describe it. As Jews, we always, in any situation, we always turn to our Torah to find guidance. What does God want from us? What does he want us to do? What is our job in this situation? And there's many things we can do and we should do. Part of which is learning Torah, but also learning Torah to learn how to respond. How to respond emotionally, we don't need help with. We're all doing that, unfortunately, pretty well. But there are a few things we can do. Let's start with things to provide protection for the Jewish people, wherever they may be, and specifically in Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, our holy land. We're going to start with a chapter of Tehillim, a chapter of Psalms. If you have Psalms at home, you can open it up. You can read it in English. You can find it online. A good English translation should be available on chabad.org, chabad.org. We're going to read chapter 122. The Rebbe's chapter. I'm going to read it in Hebrew, but feel free to grab a book of Psalms and follow along in English. Preferably say it with your mouth, not just in your head. The words of prayer are very, very powerful. Shir ha'malos l'David samachti be'emrim libeis adonai neilech aimdes hayraglenu b'sharayich Yerushalayim Yerushalayim habnuya ki ishachubra le'yachta shesham al shvatim shiv de'yohidis l'Yisrael l'hoidis l'shem Adonai ki sham yoshvu chizis mishpat kisos leves David shalu shlam Yerushalayim Yerushalayim Yehovah yichishalam michelech shalva barmanei soich ilman achai v'rei adavra nashalim b'cham ha'beis Adonai lehinu avak shetov lach. 122. Also, sages tell us that tzedakah tatzil mimavas, that charity saves from death. Doesn't matter if it's a half a death or a full death, any sort of harm to the Jewish people or anybody. Charity has a power to protect. So grab your charity box if you have one. If you don't have one, reach out, please. Grab a coin or a dollar bill and give charity. One of the easiest mitzvahs and one of the most powerful mitzvahs. If you have children, whether they have a Jewish education, they went to Hebrew school, whatever it is, or they didn't, the Torah tells us, that is the power with the Jewish children, not adults. Children have the power with their mouths to say words of Torah, and they have the power to provide protection and safety for the Jewish people at large. So if you have children, or you know children, your relatives, the Jewish children, encourage them to say a few verses of Torah. Hebrew, English, it doesn't matter, to recite verses of Torah, specifically Shema Yisrael, the famous hero Israel in Deuteronomy. Today's class is in the merit of the protection of Jewish people in the land of Israel and worldwide. This coming Saturday night, tomorrow night, October 14th, correct? Yeah, 14th, at 8:30 p.m., we are going to have a Zoom get-together for the Erie community to come and to get support for the very difficult feelings that everyone is feeling, and to give support if you are able to show support for those who are suffering. You're encouraged to come. Please join. It'll be 8:30 p.m. JewishErie.com/Zoom. If you'd like to sponsor today's class or a future class, please reach out to rabbi@JewishErie.com. And also, if you'd like the material for this week's class, please reach out. I will send you an email with a PDF, God willing. After that introduction, let's get into it. Security measures. The world around us is tumultuous and turbulent. Terrorism in Israel, our Jewish brethren under attack, this all evokes feelings of fear and anxiety. What can we do about it? During the plague of the firstborn in ancient Egypt, there was a particular thing that we did, that God commanded us to do, which provided a protection for the Jewish people. What is its modern day equivalent? So a little introduction. The year 1973 and 1974 was a year of crisis in Israel and throughout the entire Jewish world. The Yom Kippur War was one of the most difficult wars that Israel underwent in recent history. and its price was very heavy. 2,656 killed, 7,251 wounded, and 301 prisoners, and dozens missing. When the war broke out, Israelis were caught by surprise, and when the number of casualties became clear, it caused an irreparable crack in the sense of trust and belief in the political and military leadership that had existed until then. There was widespread public criticism over the fact that the leadership did not foresee the outbreak of the war and did not mobilize reserves in time, costing many lives. Protest movements arose, calling for the resignation of the government. The war also caused enormous damage to the Israeli economy. The need to replenish lost military equipment weighed down heavily on the defense budget. The heavy defense spending in the post-war years led to inflation and the loss of Israel's economic independence, which became increasingly dependent on economic assistance from the United States. There were also several severe terrorist attacks that year. A terrorist attack in Kiryat Shmona, which killed 18 people, and a terrifying massacre at a school in Ma'alot, which killed 27. The mood throughout the Jewish world was despondent. People felt helpless and afraid, in doubt about the future of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. During that time, the Rebbe announced several mitzvah campaigns. In addition to his first mitzvah, the Tefillin campaign, the purpose of which was to inspire Jewish people around the world to engage with their Jewish heritage to a greater degree and to provide protection for Jewish people worldwide. Maybe we'll talk more about that later. In the following talk, the Rebbe announced the Mezuzah campaign and several others to add to the protection of the Jewish people. This lesson is actually a compilation of a number of talks from the Rebbe on the subject. Section A, countering darkness with light. And this is going to be the guiding principle throughout the lesson. Says the Rebbe, when we observe that the darkness is growing stronger, both materially and spiritually, the purpose of this is certainly to arouse Jews to add far more true light. We discussed this at length, that it is greatly desirable that every Jewish home contain a charity box, a siddur, a prayer book, and a book of Psalms, like that one. This is the reason for the following suggestion. The Rebbe is going to elaborate on these three things. A charity box reminder. We should extend every possible effort to ensure that every Jewish home contains a charity box. Even someone that has no knowledge regarding Judaism and doesn't know what Torah and its mitzvos are, when he sees a new item in his home and room, encountering it as he passes by for whatever purpose, will ask, what is this? What is this thing? He will then learn about the concept of charity, and this will serve as a first step for, quote, one mitzvah leads to another mitzvah. This is especially effective considering the fact that we see in our time, and especially in this country, that all Jews are open and actually active with regard to the mitzvah of charity. In general, it is said, it says in the verse, it's a verse and a midrash, I am asleep in exile, but my heart is awake to Torah and its mitzvahs. This can sometimes remain in the heart, but regarding the mitzvah of charity, Jews are responsive in a real way. The advantage of a charity box in the home is that it reminds the person about the mitzvah of charity every time he passes by the box. Even on Shabbat and holidays, when it is forbidden to actually put money in the box, its very presence reminds the person that soon the Shabbat or holiday will be over and he will then be able to fulfill the mitzvah of charity in practice. So when approached with an offer to engage in a mitzvah, Jews often like to say that they're Jewish at heart. In other words, I'm not going to practice. I do this in my heart. I am Jewish at heart. But this is not the case regarding charity. For whatever the reason, we find that Jews worldwide, really, not ignoring their level of religiosity, is that a word? I don't know. Most of them are quite active in the mitzvah of charity, whether it's giving $1 or $1,000 or $10 million, depending on a person's capacity. But charity is charity regardless how much it is, as long as you give your best. So having a simple charity box, a box with a slit on top that you're going to give to a charitable Jewish organization, to poor people, whatever it might be, having this on the table, on a desk, on a fireplace, wherever it might be, serves as a reminder, hey, use me, put charity in me, do something good. Just the act of putting a coin in the box is a mitzvah. That's one number one, charity box. 2, a siddur to inspire the heart. An additional matter, charity occupies man's faculty of action. While it is true that action is primary, like the famous rule, famous principle. There is also a need for something to capture the feelings of the heart. Charity is a thing that we do, but we also have to get involved with our heart as well. For this reason, another suggestion was made. The Rebbe made another suggestion, which was that every Jewish home should have a siddur, a prayer book, a Jewish prayer book, displayed openly in a place where it will be seen constantly. The siddur is associated with prayer, blessings, and praise for God. And when a person sees this new item on the table, or on his parents' or siblings' table, he will inquire about it, leading to a first step regarding the service of the heart, prayer. You know, there's the famous joke. It's a sad joke, but it's a joke. That there was a certain Jew who had a bunch of Sfarim. He had a bunch of Jewish Torah books on his shelf. And there was something wrong with the shelf, and a couple of books kept falling off. Every time somebody walked past, it fell off. He put them back on the shelf. Somebody walked past, it fell off. He put them back on the shelf. Nobody walked past. There wasn't an earthquake, nothing. Still fell off the shelf. So he had a great idea. He took a big pipe, big pole. He drilled a hole through the shelf, through all the books on the shelf. Big hole. He slid the pipe or the pole, whatever it was, through, and he nailed it in place, or he screwed it in place. Oh, now the books won't fall off the shelf. The joke is that now you can't use them, and he wasn't planning to use them anyway. It's a joke because you're supposed to use Torah books. You're supposed to learn them constantly. Even if you learn them once, learn them again. Let them permeate your reality. Let them see the way God thinks, so to speak. Train your mind to see the things differently with a positive outlook. But here the Rebbe is saying, not the opposite, but is saying even before that, even just having the book in your home available, that you might use it, and you see it on the shelf, you say, maybe I should pray today. That is a first step. It's incredible. It's important. For those who are wondering, if you'd like a charity box or a prayer book, we can arrange that. They're not too expensive, and if money is something that is a little difficult for you, we can try to get somebody to sponsor such for you, because they are very important. And especially at our times right now, the Jewish people need it. Every mitzvah provides protection. Third thing, Psalms to inspire the mind. The premier faculty of a human being is the mind. It is therefore necessary that the home also contains some element of Torah. The starting point for this should be the book of Psalms. Now, interestingly enough, people usually associate Psalms with prayer. It's kind of the original prayer book. When we're in a situation, the place we turn to usually is the book of Psalms to recite these words, which contain incredible power and divinity and holiness, to ask God to help us out. But the Rebbe is making an interesting point, which is that Psalms is one of the 24 books of the Tanakh, one of the 24 books of the Bible. It's Torah. We see practically, especially in most recent times, that there is increasing interest in reciting Psalms. Even people that wish to delude themselves and claim that they aren't religious, when they see a chapter of Psalms written by the sweet singer of Israel, Naim Zmiras Yisrael, King David, they wish to read it again, and they later begin to live with its message. Psalms contains praises for God, and it also contains the element of Torah, as it is one of the 24 holy books that constitute the Tanakh, the written part of the Torah. 1 second, I have to pause this. Isn't technology great? You can be in the middle of a class, you can walk away, have a drink, go to the bathroom, go to sleep, wake up, come back, and nobody even knows that you did all that. Just continue the class. I just opened the door for somebody. It's okay. Okay. These two suggestions are regarding the individual's personal religious experience. A prayer book and a book of Psalms to inspire one's heart and mind, but then there's something more overarching, more encompassing. Second. Back. Big thing. This is very important. I can't stress this enough, and we'll talk more about it as we go along. Mezuzah. If you haven't heard the word mezuzah in your life, the first time, you're going to learn a lot about it right now. Mezuzah, family protection. What is a mezuzah? Mezuzah is one of the commandments of the Torah. God commands us to put up a mezuzah on our doorposts. It says in the verse in Deuteronomy, you should inscribe them, write them on the doorposts of your homes and your gates. This is referring to the mitzvah of mezuzah. Mezuzah is a piece of parchment, it's a scroll, a little scroll, written by an expert scribe, has to be written in a very particular way. 2 paragraphs of the Shema, actually. And if there's a letter missing, there's a letter added, there's a word missing, there's a word added, there's a scratch through some letters, it can invalidate the whole thing, and it's worthless. worthless. It's a Torah scroll, but it's not used, can't be used for mezuzah until it's fixed, or you have to get a new one. But a kosher mezuzah is rolled up, put into a case, and put on a doorpost, the doorpost of your home. It's preferably every single doorway that requires a mezuzah, according to Jewish law. The mezuzah provides protection. Besides for being a mitzvah to put up a mezuzah, just as we have a mitzvah, a commandment to keep Shabbat, to put on tefillin for Jewish men, to light Shabbat candles, Jewish women. We also have a mitzvah, commandment to put up a mezuzah. But in addition to the command is also something that provides protection. In fact, in a certain sense, the purpose of the mitzvah is to provide protection for those living in the home, even when they're not home. We'll talk more about it soon, but we're going to get into the topic right now. Based on our earlier discussion that a key element of the soul's mission is to have an effect in this world, another matter is necessary, that a Jewish home should be identifiable even from the outside. This is achieved through the mitzvah of mezuzah. The mezuzah is placed at the entrance to the house or courtyard, and even on the entry gates to the city, as was common in the past, that cities had walls with gates and doors. The purpose of the mezuzah is to serve as testimony to all that enter and exit the house, even non-Jews, that the entire house and all that it contains is permeated with the content of the scrolls of the mezuzah. The mezuzah scroll begins with the verse, "Hear, O Israel, God our Lord, God is one," in Hebrew, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and it concludes with the promise of the redemption. It says, "In order that your days may increase and the days of your children on the land which the Lord swore to your forefathers to give them as the days of heaven above the earth eternally." This also generates divine protection for the home. This is evident from the story in which Rabbi Yehuda gave the Roman emperor a mezuzah as a gift. The emperor expressed his displeasure with what appeared to him to be a gift of minimal monetary value after he had given Rabbi Yehuda an expensive gift. Rabbi Yehuda explained to the emperor that while the emperor's gift is something that requires protection, the mezuzah he gave him generates the divine protection for the person, his home, and everything within the home. Let's see the story inside. It's from the Jerusalem Talmud, the book of Peah, chapter 1. Interesting story. Artabon, king of Persia, sent a valuable gift to Rabbi Yehuda the Nasi, the leader of the Jewish people at the time. In return, Rabbi Yehuda sent him a mezuzah. Now, the king of Roman emperor, king of Persia, sends a gift. You can imagine it wasn't a donkey here. It wasn't a piece of clay or something ridiculous like that. It was, it could be boatloads of gold and silver and who knows what, precious gems. And after this tremendous gift was sent to him, he received a gift back. It's a little package. He probably sends tens of messengers to bring back the gift. And then, one guy's holding this little scroll. Artabon, understandably, was offended. And he asked, "I sent you a valuable gift. How could you send me something worth so little?" Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi answered, "You sent something which needs to be safeguarded, has to be protected, while I sent you something which will safeguard you." It's a big difference. Sometime later, King Artabon's only daughter became critically ill. He remembered the mezuzah and Rabbi Yehuda's words, so he fixed the mezuzah to the doorpost, and his daughter made a full recovery. So the mezuzah has two important features. First of all, it declares to everyone in the home, everyone coming through the home, that this is a Jewish home that belongs to God. But secondly, it also has a feature of protection, bringing blessing and success and healing to all those who live in the home. This is the effect of the mezuzah, protector of the door of Israel. God protects the Jewish home and everything inside it from external harmful elements, as well as the foreign God within you, giving the person assistance to prevail in his internal battle with his in-house negative inclination. Practically speaking, we need to work to ensure that every Jewish home and all of the doors inside the house have a kosher mezuzah affixed. We'll talk more about the importance of having a mezuzah soon, but let's learn more about the depth of the mezuzah. Now we're going to section B, the mezuzah effect. So this, what we just learned, was actually from a Farbrengen, was from a Hasidic gathering, the 10th of Shvat, the day of the passing of the previous Rebbe, and the day that the Rebbe assumed leadership of the Chabad movement. The next section is actually a different date. It was said these words were said 5 days later on Tu B'Shvat. The Rebbe addressed this matter again and explained the reason for the call, that every Jew should have a Siddur, Psalms, charity box, and mezuzah in greater depth. Myself, my family, and the world. Our existence in this world is on three levels: A, as an individual; B, as a family unit; and C, with our portion of the world, which by extension includes the whole world, because everyone is obligated to say the world was created for me. In divine service, this represents. Everyone's going to go through all three, but he's going to start with the first and the third, and then go to address the second one. Personal divine service, which is Torah study, prayer, tefillin, which are compared to the entire Torah, whose purpose is to subjugate the heart and mind to God. Divine service in one's portion of the world and the entire world, which is the third one. Charity, which is compared to all of the mitzvot and referred to as the general mitzvah. In fact, if you look in the Jerusalem Talmud, when it refers to ha-mitzvah, which, if you know a little Hebrew, that means the mitzvah, it's referring to a very specific mitzvah. It's referring to the mitzvah of charity. It's called the mitzvah. Charity is given with worldly matters like the gold, silver, and copper, and all the 13 or 15 items with which the tabernacle was built. Through this, we make our entire world a dwelling place for God. Giving charity with a paper bill or a metal coin, besides for it being a mitzvah, and it's a holy act, and it's a kind act, and it's you're fulfilling a command of God, but it's also an act done with physical objects. Physical paper, physical metal, physical copper, whatever it is. Used to be silver in America. By doing so, you're actually making these objects used for a mitzvah. It's not a regular piece of metal now. Now it's a mitzvah coin. It's a mitzvah bill. There's a big difference. The middle matter, the second one, is related to the home, including the meaning of home as in family. As in the verse, man and his home came. The verse says in Exodus, Ish uvesei ba'u, man and his house came. There were no mobile homes back then. Guaranteed. In ancient Egypt, there were no mobile homes. Mobile homes is a recent invention. Nobody comes with their house. The meaning of coming with your house means you come with your household, your family. So house can also mean family. That is the concept of the mezuzah. And you shall inscribe them upon the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, to ensure that the home is fully united with God by affixing to the house the concept of Hear, O Israel, God our Lord, God is one. This one, you need to know a little Hebrew lettering. I'll help you out so you'll understand it, you'll appreciate it. The allusion in the word one, the last word of that verse, which in Hebrew is echad, is well known. The chet represents the seven heavens and the earth. The dal represents the four directions of the world, and first letter aleph represents God, the master of the world. I'm going to explain that in a second, but let's see the source of this in the Code of Jewish Law, chapter 61, source 2 over here. It is customary to recite the first verse of the Shema in a loud voice to arouse one's concentration. It is customary to cover one's face with his hand while reciting the first verse, so that he not look at anything that might prevent him from concentrating. This is across the board. Jews always say Shema, just the first verse, covering their eyes. There's different customs how to cover their eyes. Many people cover their eyes like this. Some people take off their glasses. Some people go like this. There's a lot of different idea of focusing and giving yourself an extra concentration boost. Whoever prolongs his enunciation of the Dalet in the word Echad will have his days and years prolonged. Likewise, one should not cut the Chet short, but also prolong it somewhat to affirm the sovereignty of God over heaven and earth, for the Chet alludes to the seven heavens and the earth. The enunciation of the Dalet, however, should be prolonged more to contemplate how God is alone in his world and rules over all four directions of the world. Some people tilt their heads in a manner that mirrors their thoughts, meaning they up, down, and to each of the four directions. In Hebrew is a divine language. I'm not talking about modern Hebrew. It's not a divine language. It's a man-made language. But biblical Hebrew is a divine language. It is the only divine language. It is the language that God used to create the universe, which is relevant to this week's Torah portion, which we started over from the beginning of the book, from Bereishis, Genesis. Every letter has power, has energy. Therefore, every word has power and energy. Every letter of the Hebrew alphabet corresponds to a number, to an amount, represents a number. Aleph, the first letter, is 1. Bet, the second letter, is 2, so on and so forth. You get to Yud is 10. The next letter, Kaf, is not 11. The next letter, Kaf, is 20. Lamed, the next one, is 30, so on and so forth, all the way to the last letter, Taf, equals 400. So the word Echad, which means one, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, that Lord is one, God is one. Echad is made up of 3 letters. Aleph, the first letter, Chet, the 8th letter, and Dalet, the 4th letter. Aleph is 1, Chet is 8, and Dalet is 4. What does this represent? The Code of Jewish Law just told us. Chet, the middle letter, skip the first one for a second. Chet is 8. 8 represents the 7 heavens and this physical world. And Dalet, the last letter, is 4, represents the 4 directions of the universe. And they are all permeated with Aleph, the Alufo Shel Olam, the master of the universe, who's one. That he is the existence of, and he permeates the existence of the entire universe. Going further with the Rebbe's words, this is the seal that serves as a sign for the person himself as he exits and enters, as well as the entire world, that this is a Jewish home and that everything it contains is under the control of God, the King of all kings. So the verse of the Shema is written in the mezuzah. That is the verse that is written. By placing the mezuzah on the doorposts of our homes, we declare that the entire home is united with the one and only. And we are reminded of that every time we enter and exit the home. Clearly, the specific choice of mitzvos was not random. They represent a specific element of a person's environment, his person, his external form, and his family environment. The Rebbe chose these mitzvahs as protection for the Jewish people, not just out of a hat, like that one and that one. No, the Rebbe very specifically chose these mitzvahs. Charity box in the home, Siddur, prayer book in the home, book of Psalms to read from and to learn from, and a mezuzah. Protecting the home and the family. This also generates protection. As the sages teach, the convention is that the physical king sits inside and his servants protect him from the outside. With God, however, his servants sit inside and he protects them from the outside. This teaching expresses 2 points. That the mezuzah shows that the person is a servant of God and that it generates protection for him. Let's see source 3. Talmud Tractate of Avodah Zarah. This is a fascinating story. Onkelos bar Kilonimus was a convert. There is a famous translation of the Torah into Aramaic. It's printed in practically all Torahs, all Chumashim, any book that contains the 5 books of Moses. It's printed in practically every single one of them. Onkelos' translation of the Torah, this guy, Onkelos, into Aramaic. He was quite the Jew. He did not grow up Jewish. He wasn't Jewish. He converted at certain points. After he had converted, apparently he was a big guy in the government, the Roman government. And after he converted, the Roman emperor wasn't too happy about that. So he sent soldiers after him to bring him to him. So let's see this interesting story about the mezuzah inside. Onkelos bar Kilonimus converted to Judaism. The Roman emperor sent a troop of Roman soldiers after him to seize him. Onkelos drew them toward him with verses that he cited and learned with them, and they converted. They came to get him, they became Jews. The emperor then sent another troop of Roman soldiers after him and said to them, do not say anything to him, do not say any words to him, so that he cannot convince you with his arguments. The troops followed this instruction and took Onkelos with them. They didn't say a word to him. When they were walking, Onkelos said to the troop of soldiers, I will say a mere statement to you. A minor official holds a torch before a high official. The high official holds a torch for a duke. A duke holds for the governor. And the governor for the ruler. Does the ruler hold a torch before the common people? The soldier said to Onkelos, no, that's ridiculous. Why would the ruler hold a torch for the common people? Onkelos said to them, yet God holds a torch before the Jewish people. As it is written, and the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead the way for them, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light. This is referring to when we were traveling through the desert. They all converted. Round 3. The emperor then sent another troop of soldiers after him to bring Onkelos and said to them, do not converse with him at all. The last guy, he told them, don't talk to him. Here they're saying, don't let a conversation occur. The troops followed this instruction and took Onkelos with them. They grabbed him and were walking. Onkelos saw a mezuzah that was placed on the doorway. He placed his hand upon it, which is, by the way, Jewish custom. When you walk past a mezuzah, to put your hand on it, give it a kiss, to remind yourself, oh, yes, God is in my home, and this is the mezuzah that's here protecting my home. It was placed on the doorway. He placed his hand upon it and said to the soldiers, what is this? As if he didn't know, right? He's starting a conversation. They said to him, I don't know, you tell us. Onkelos said to them, the standard practice throughout the world is that a king of flesh and blood sits inside his palace and his servants stand guard, protecting him from the outside. But with regard to God, his servants, the Jewish people, sit inside their homes, and he guards over them outside. As it is stated, the Lord shall guard your going out and your coming in from now and forever. Upon hearing this, those soldiers converted to Judaism. After that, the emperor sent no more soldiers after him. In addition to displaying the home's connection to God, the mezuzah also is an expression of protection, demonstrating that that God protects the home and the family. An important point, Onkelos, he spoke to these guys, they converted to Judaism. He was very convincing words. It might seem from here that it is Jewish to convert people to Judaism. It's not the case. It's not true. It's a complete myth. In fact, we don't actively try to convert people, and we shy away from it. We're not looking for people to convert. We have enough, we have Jews, and we want Jews to grow and have a bigger Jewish family, and so on and so forth. But we're not looking to add Jews to the Jewish people. The way we look at it is that a Jew has a mission in this world, a very specific mission, mitzvahs, Torah. A Gentile, a non-Jew, also has their specific mission in this world, keeping with the 7 Noahide laws. There's a book you can get on Amazon. It's called The Divine Code. It's a blue book, fantastic book. It's more instructional than it's both. It's informational and instructional. How to live the way God wants a non-Jew to live. 7 Noahide principles, more accurately. But no, we don't try to convert people. Is conversion a real thing? Absolutely, it's a real thing. It's a Torah concept. It has to be done according to Jewish law. But it is a thing, but we don't proselytize. It's not something we do. Going further, chasing away villains, says the Rebbe. Even in a situation such as that we learned about in the Torah portion of Bo, where an extra degree of protection is needed for, quote, once the destructive angel has been unleashed, it doesn't distinguish, and it can even harm a person who is seemingly innocent. Even then, the Zohar, the Holy Zohar, states that a door that is adorned with a mezuzah doesn't allow any destructive force to come near because God protects the entrance. And even when the destructive angel has been given license to harm, it raises its eyes and sees God's name, Shin, Dalid, Yud, which is one of God's divine names, on the door. The destructive angel won't be allowed into your home to strike. Not only can't the destructive angel strike, it flees. The mezuzah chases it away. We'll explain this in a second. The original mezuzah. This is similar to what occurred before the exodus from Egypt. As the verse says, God will pass to strike the Egyptians, and he will see the blood on the 2 doorposts, and he will not allow the destructive force to enter your houses to strike you, even though the destructive force has been granted license. See that inside in Exodus chapter 12. Moses summoned the elders of Israel and said to them, gather the people and get yourselves sheep for your families so that you will be able to slaughter the Passover sacrifice. You will then have to take a bunch of hyssop and dip it into the blood that will be placed in the basin. Touch the beam over the door and the 2 doorposts with some of the blood in the basin. Not a single one of you may go out the door of his house until morning. God will pass to strike the Egyptians, and he will see the blood on the 2 doorposts. God will pass over that door, and he will not allow the destructive force to enter your houses to strike you. You must keep this ritual as a law for you and your children forever. We were slaves in Egypt for 210 years. It's a very long time, very, very long time. It wasn't just doing what Pharaoh wanted, it was backbreaking torture. We suffered tremendously. The story goes, look in the Torah, that I'm just being brief here, Moses is chosen by God to serve as the leader, to bring the Jewish people out of Egypt to freedom and to give them the Torah on Mount Sinai. God does this through 10 plagues, sends 10 plagues to against the Egyptian people. The last plague, the death of the firstborn, is the most severe plague, because all the previous plagues, they were suffering, they were hurt, they were harmed. Death wasn't really on the table so much. Here, they're saying, Pharaoh, if you do not let the Jewish people leave, all the firstborn Egyptians will die, including Pharaoh himself. He was a firstborn, by the way. So the way this worked was that God also told the Jewish people on this night, which is the first Passover, that's why we celebrate Passover, to bring a Passover sacrifice, a sheep, and take the blood from the sacrifice and to put it on the doorposts of the home. Why? This will serve as a sign that this home is protected. protected. No harm should come to this home. No firstborn should die in this home. There's more to elaborate on that, but we're not getting into that now. God sent the angel of death, the Malach HaMavet, to kill all the firstborn in Egypt, and this served as a sign for the angel that the angel shouldn't go to those homes. The angel of death, I just want to point out, angel of death is not a monster, he's not a demon, he's an angel, just like all angels. Angels are beings with missions. That's what they do. That's what an angel is. An angel is a creation of God that has a mission, has a thing that it needs to do. That's what an angel does, as a task. It doesn't just exist, it exists for a purpose. The angel of death, the angel's job is death. It's not a fun job. I imagine it's not a pleasant job. It's not a happy job, but it's fulfilling a purpose. This essentially is the prototype of the mezuzah. Putting the blood on the doorpost was the original mezuzah. It provided protection for the home, and a mezuzah does the same thing. Says the Rebbe, the difference is that prior to the Exodus and the giving of the Torah, a number of precautionary steps were needed, while after the giving of the Torah, the mitzvah of mezuzah generates divine protection for his servants to the extent that even when the negative force has been granted license, not only can't it enter, it flees. It is therefore understood that the purpose in emphasizing the mitzvah of mezuzah is not just in order to grab another mitzvah opportunity, relying on the principle that one mitzvah leads to another. In truth, this alone would be sufficient. The mezuzah serves as a part of the three general levels mentioned earlier: the person as an individual, the entire world, and as family unit, the home. As discussed earlier, every Jewish home needs to have a siddur, psalms, which represent prayer, and a book of Torah, a charity box, and together with them, a mezuzah, which completes the picture. There is a third section. It's an optional section. We're going to leave it out for today. If you'd like, in the handout, the curriculum, I can email it to you. By the way, I try to get to every email. If you send me an email and you don't get a response within the day, please email me again. I appreciate the follow-up, the reminder. Otherwise, you just might get lost. So you can reach out, ask for the material. You can read the third section yourself. A few points. Mezuzah is not a good luck charm. It is not a Jewish symbol, although it is also a Jewish symbol. Mezuzah is so crucial. It provides protection for everyone in the home, even when they are not home. Okay. I will say I share a short little fascinating story. It's got depth to it, but it's like a cute little story. There is a Jew, he's still alive today, as far as I'm pretty sure he is. He lives in my hometown, Brooklyn, Crown Heights, and he had a car. I'm sure he still has a car. And for some reason, he was going through a number of break-ins. People were breaking into his car. And he had, the Rebbe, on the wall, the Rebbe had said publicly and written publicly that people should have in their cars, as a form of protection, a Chumash, a book of 5 books of Moses, Tehillim, book of Psalms, and a Tanya, the main book of the Chabad philosophy, written by the Alter Rebbe. There's actually a book. It's a fat book. It's very small, but it's very fat. It's called the Chitas. It's an acronym for all three: Chumash, Tehillim, Tanya. Should have one of these. Have these books in the car, as well as a charity box in the car, and this is a form of protection. He had these things in the car, and they were still having these break-ins. He wrote to the Rebbe, kind of complaining. I don't understand. I did these things, and people are breaking into my car. How does it make any sense? And the Rebbe's response is very brief, very simple, but very deep. The exact word I don't remember. The Rebbe wrote in Hebrew, but the Rebbe wrote, "Does your car not have an alarm? Did you leave the doors open?" That was the response. The idea is like this. I talk about this a lot. In Judaism, there's body and soul. A Jew has a body and soul. A human being has a body and a soul. Torah also has a body and soul. There's the legal aspect of Torah, the stories of Torah, and as well as the soul of Torah, the deeper dimension, the mystical dimension, the energetic, the life of the Torah. Kabbalah and Chassidus. Mitzvahs also have bodies and souls. The mitzvahs, the body of a mitzvah is the act of the mitzvah, the physical act, and the soul of the mitzvah is the intention and the feeling involved in the mitzvah, which elevate the mitzvah, make it real and alive. when it comes to certain ideas in mitzvahs, there's also another form of body and soul, which is like this. The story brings it out. You need to have the divine protection by putting these books and the charity box in the car, but you also need to make a physical vessel to hold that blessing, to hold that protection. In this case, making sure the door is locked. Having an alarm system in the car that works. The verse says, Im Hashem lo yishmer ir shov shakad shomer. It's in Psalms. If there's a city that has a guard, but God is not guarding the city as well, the guard is wasting his time. He's not doing his job. He's not guarding the city. But the verse doesn't say if God is protecting the city, you don't need a guard. If God is protecting the city, then you need a guard as well. Hand in hand. Divine protection without a physical vessel doesn't have an effect in this world necessarily. Having the physical vessel, having the physical protection without the divine blessing is worthless. You need both, hand in hand. So too with mezuzah. Having a mezuzah on the front door, on every door of the home that requires a mezuzah, provides protection for the people in the home. Doesn't mean you should leave your door unlocked. Doesn't mean you shouldn't take necessary steps to be safe. They're both equally important. Which brings us to another point. In our current situation, there are many Jews who are very afraid. Very afraid. I feel fear sometimes too. We all feel afraid. We're concerned, we're in pain, we're suffering. Many are anxious and afraid. Some are responding. They're using this fear to push themselves to add a mitzvah observance, which is absolutely top-notch, the best option. Because every mitzvah that we do, and especially these mitzvahs, it provides safety and protection for all the Jewish people, wherever they might be. And especially mezuzah. People who don't have a mezuzah are reaching out. They want to put up a mezuzah on their doors. People who have mezuzahs, but they haven't been checked to make sure that they're kosher, that they're valid still, because rain can get them, the air, temperature. They have to make sure that they're kosher. Otherwise, they're not kosher. They don't provide the protection. They want to get them checked by an expert scribe. They're making an effort in adding in mitzvahs and in Torah learning, which is the best option. There are some Jews, because of their fear, they're responding differently, that they feel the need to take down the mezuzah from their door because they're concerned that someone's going to see it and they're going to know that this person is Jewish and they're going to do something awful. The response, that response is understandable. It's a valid response, but it's not the right way to do things. As crazy as it might sound, keeping the mezuzah up is the best option. And not having a mezuzah up and putting one up is the best option. Making sure that you're adding in Torah observance, in Jewish identity, illustration, expression, is the best way to fight against darkness. That is the best way. Being fearful and therefore holding back, being less openly Jewish, is giving into the darkness, is allowing the darkness to take over your life. Although it's an understandable response, and it's a response that makes sense. It feels comfortable, it feels safe. Jewish teachings throughout our ages have always taught us, the Torah has always taught us that God provides His protection when He provides His protection, but He increases the protection when we add in these things. We add in our observance, in our Jewish expression. If you need a book of Psalms, if you need a siddur or prayer book, if you need tefillin, you're a Jewish man that does not put on tefillin, you want to provide protection for Jews around the world and in the land of Israel specifically, and you want to put on tefillin daily, if you're ready to commit to put on daily, except for Shabbat, please reach out. We'll arrange you to get a pair of tefillin, God willing. Your charity box. Mezuzah, if you need a mezuzah for your front door, any door in your home, in every doorway that requires a mezuzah should have a mezuzah. The more mezuzah, the better protection. Please reach out. We will make it happen, God willing. If you can't pay for it, we will, God willing, make it happen regardless. Wishing everyone around the world a happy Shabbos, a safe Shabbos, and a Shabbos filled with light and goodness. The ultimate light and goodness, the goodness of the times of Mashiach, the Messiah, and the redemption. May it be speedily in our times before Shabbos even starts.